Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I can take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we are going to be jumping in to a special treat that we got on May 4th. And I know a lot of fans have been very excited for it. And Tales of the Empire. And it follows two stories and very interesting characters that they chose to do this with. But I like what they did because it gives a lot of more explanation for both of the characters. One that was newly introduced that we're getting more backstory on, and then another one that we've had backstory on from Clone Wars, and she just completely disappeared. And now we got confirmation of both of these characters. So I think I would like to start with Morgan's story, because I'm not gonna lie, what an opening to this series. Because when I saw Grievous in the trailer, I was like, okay, it's supposed to be Tales of the Empire. How are we gonna have Grievous during the Empire? But it tied in so well, and that fight scene with Grievous was really epic.
So I'm just thinking of that one line that for that one moment took me out of the entire episode. But
It took you out like in a bad way, or
yeah, because it was just like the wipe them out, all of them. And bearing in mind, we had just seen the Phantom Menace, so we had that line originally, and then to sort of hear that again, but from Grievous, it was like, all right, that's actually a little too far for me.
I don't know. I noticed when I was watching the Phantom Menace the other day. I noticed some things that I didn't notice before, like just speaking of like lines being reused, and Obi-Wan is talking to Qui-Gon right after the council basically told him he can't train Anakin, and Qui-Gon's like, "I will do what I must." I'm like, "Hey, that's an Obi-Wan quote." So Star Wars tends to reuse lines a lot and put them in different things. Like, what was it like? Oh, we're doomed, or stuff like that. So but it didn't bother me too much.
When it's such an iconic line like that, yes, the Qui-Gon Obi-Wan reuse was there, but at the same time, it's not.
They're master and apprentice, so I mean, you kind of expect Obi-Wan to say the same things.
Whereas this was Grievous on a planet, and it kind of came out of nowhere. It could have literally been any other line that was said that wasn't said in such an iconic movie.
All I'm hearing is Sam hates Grievous.
No, because Grievous kills Jedi, so I'm on his side.
That's true. He does bring death.
We're what, like 5 minutes into this, and we're already re-establishing that I like the death scenes in Star Wars.
I mean, everybody likes a good death scene. That's why everybody loves the Order 66, and I think that's why I liked this episode. Not because it was death, but it's just because it's just such chaos. It's like when you think of the Empire and the beginnings of the Empire, and you kind of expect them to be a lot like this. And yeah, I didn't really pay too much to the dialogue. It didn't really throw me out, but I liked all the visuals and how Grievous was very cunning. Like when he was fighting Morgan's mom, and she's like, haha, I blocked both your lightsabers. He's like, ha, joke's on you. I got 4 arms. And completely cut her off.
Very tragic backstory. Haha, I got 4 arms. I made a note on episode 4 because that's the one with which starts Barris's story, and it starts on the night of the Order 66. And I
Yeah.
underlined it. I'm like, Sam's favorite event of the entire saga.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that that is completely true.
Yeah, you know. I mean, a lot of fans like that, and I think that's kind of why they kind of focusing on giving Morgan this story arc.
Mhm.
Because I made a note of the titles for the 3 episodes she's in. It's was it Fear, Anger, and Hatred, and
Yeah.
I had to think back to Yoda's because he's like, fear leads to the dark side, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, and all that fun stuff. And
I
so
make
I was like, okay, I'm like, I see the path of fear going here the way that Yoda said, and it's giving you a play by play with a character that suffered so much in her backstory, lost her people, and she's trying to find where she belongs because she's like the Jedi. She's pretty much like the Jedi right now. Her people are gone. She's alone, and nowhere for her to fit in. And so she ends up going the darker route, and not a bad story, I think.
When I first saw the episode titles, I did not do any research going into it. I did my research afterwards, and when I saw the episode titles, the path of fear, the path of anger, the path of hate, I thought this was Barris's arc. I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay. So, because we saw her situation in the Clone Wars, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is gonna show us. But it was completely, it threw me off because, in my opinion, I think this is a bit weird that Morgan Elsbeth, even though her entire culture was destroyed by separatist General Grievous, whoever, the fact that she actually turned to the Empire for revenge, that sounded a bit off to me. I did not understand why she would
I,
do so.
I I was there with you on that one because I was trying to figure that out too, and I don't know if she's trying to get into the Empire and raise their ranks to get to Palpatine or whatnot. Because I mean, it's really not the Empire's fault that her people died. It's Palpatine orchestrating everything. The Empire can't. Was just was birthed from all of that chaos, and
That did not make sense to me at all.
Point wasn't the Empire at this point technically still separatists?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I mean,
they were kind of
But-
being controlled by Darth Sidious, but it wasn't
yes,
until
but a lot of the separatists didn't agree with the Empire. Like when we see like what we discussed in Mandalorian with the separatist guy on the planet, he's like the Empire wasn't able to control me, the rebels weren't able to control me, and this isn't gonna now the New Republic.
because by that point, when she is actually joining the Empire, Grievous is gone, Dooku is gone, there's no separatists. What revenge is to pursue? Against whom?
Just Palpatine, but I don't know how much involved she knew Palpatine was.
I interpreted that just as, she's got to eat, she's got to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like, what is the logical option? And, it was getting a job. She kind of made it well aware that she has this sort of tactician brain. And
Which got the attraction of a certain character.
yeah. So it was more like, the way I interpreted it was that she just wants to survive. Whether or not there's revenge eventually mixed in, that's a whole other thing. But it was just more that, she worked hard to get to where she was in the Empire, not because logically speaking, the Empire, as we know, didn't exist at the time that Grievous killed all of her family and planet. It was more like, so she wouldn't have a proper idea that Sidious was part of that. So for me, it was more just like she's doing what she needs to do to survive as like the last of her kind.
You know
Yeah,
what you're
and
saying makes sense in my head like this. First, we actually do not know how many people know Palpatine's real role. We don't know that because we know that the Jedi found it out, and we know, of course, Anakin, Darth Vader knows, but we actually don't know because the public story is that the Jedi were corrupt and they wanted to assassinate Chancellor Palpatine and thus the Empire. Maybe the revenge that she's looking for might be against these mountain clan and so on, because we see that at least the matron has an insane amount of power, and instead of choosing peace, choosing being non-violent, they actually abandoned another village, another culture to their death. So maybe that is the revenge she's pursuing. That might be one thing.
see, I didn't get any malice with her towards the Mountain Clan because it was the Night Sisters that were involved with the Separatists in the first place, and I don't think she'd really blame these Mountain Clans for the Night Sisters bringing about their own doom by aligning themselves with the Separatists.
Yeah, that's also true. I'm just trying to justify because I mean that is basically the key word, right? That's what Thrawn is like, okay, you are the
Hmm.
person that we're looking for. So there has to be this, it cannot just be dangling without anywhere to attach to. The revenge has to be
Yeah, I think that was what kind of found her story a little weak, even though I really wanted to know more about her. It just made unclear on what or who she's trying to bring revenge against. We understand she wants revenge, but we don't know where she's directing it at since the Separatists are gone. And like you're saying, Palpatine, according to the public's eye, he was a Republic um, with the Jedi. Like he worked with the Jedi. So that's why when he decided, oh yeah, they betrayed me and they're trying to kill me. It's like the Jedi are really behind everything. It maybe that's her. Maybe that's where her revenge is against the Jedi, and the Empire is all about bringing order and justice and whatnot. So yeah, her story was very unclear on where she was directed as far as where her anger was, but it changed more to her people got annihilated. She comes to the Empire, shows this ship, which we are very familiar with if you've seen Rebels, and then she becomes a magistrate of this city to an unappreciated people, and that's when she starts getting more anger and going towards the path of hate. Maybe her anger is at the Republic because she doesn't really like the New Republic either.
I don't think she likes anybody, to be fair. I mean,
Maybe just Thrawn.
my take from sort of revenge to like, because each episode is a different point in Morgan's timeline, which I love. I love that fact, and the same with the Barriss episode. So they're different points in the timeline, which is brilliant. I think the revenge part was more aimed at the droids that were still on the planet, because the mountain folk and the Night Sisters, I think they were on the same planet. It doesn't look like they were taken off world. So it was
No, they're on the same planet because she went back for the weapons from her tribe.
So to me, it was just more that moment she wanted revenge on the droids and on Grievous. Then in the next episode, like the revenge part is done, so that's kind of taken out, and it's progression of her story.
Yeah, maybe I'm holding on to that word very steadfastly. It's
Yeah, maybe
just,
we're just taking it from the first episode.
yeah. But again, like I can tell you when I look at so there are 6 episodes, 3-episode arc for Morgan Elsbeth, 3-episode arc for Barris Offee. They are more or less done in the same way. There are 3 separate times in their lives
Jumps.
and how the story is progressed there. And I found Morgan Elsbeth's backstory, even though it's a lot more traumatic than Barris's, because Barris made some choices and so on that led her to where she is. I found her, even though has a much better backstory, to have a less convincing motive to be doing what she's doing.
Yeah, because she's talking with other people. She basically gets put. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I think Sam's right. So the first episode focused on her revenge, and she wanted to take these mountain people to train them, one, to protect them so they can fight for themselves, because she didn't know at the time. And then she goes and fights the droids, and then I think Sam's right, her revenge there. And I think the revenge that we're seeing in the second episode, now that I'm kind of looking at my notes a little bit deeper, she's looking at I want to say the revenge she's looking at is being treated so terribly by that council in the beginning when she was presenting her idea, because the guy came off very abrupt and it's like, yeah, even before you showed, we had no interest in you. And by the way, go back to your planet, prepare. We're going to be coming in and taking back what belongs to us. And so then that's when Pelion and Thrawn come down, and she's like, okay. Thrawn's like, well, what do you want to join the Empire? So I can seek revenge. So I think her revenge was towards that council.
You know what? Now that you've said it, I think it's against everyone who does not accept her.
Yeah.
The Mountain Clan rejects her. The council rejects her. People of Corvus reject her. It's only Thrawn where she finds a home.
Because he's the only one that really gave her true acceptance. Because she's looking for her people, and Thrawn is the only one that's like, hey, I'm an alien. Palpatine's racist. I just happen to be really good that he's willing to overlook me being an alien, because he's pretty much the only alien in the Empire as far as I know. And so he is a little bit more relatable to Morgan Elsbeth, because like he knew about her. He's like, the first thing he says, he's like, oh yeah, the Night Sisters, blah blah blah, and he goes on his whole monologue that he loves to do. And then he asks, why do you want to join that, seek the favor of the Empire? And she's like, well, I see all that power and stuff, but I want revenge. I want this, I want that. And so he's like, okay, well, we sent Rook against you, and you've proven that you can defend yourself, so you're worthy to be part of us. So forget that council that rejected you. He's like, you got Pelion and me, and we're going places.
You just literally blew my mind with the Empire Palpatine is racist thing. I never realized until this moment, because I cannot. I have to go deep and find at least one officer, someone.
The only aliens that I've seen associated with the Empire are the Inquisitors.
Senate, the Senate dude. I forget his name and what species.
I know you're talking about the bureaucrat.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think he was part of the Empire. I think he was just being manipulated by Palpatine to get what he wanted. Because I don't really remember seeing him after.
Honestly, like we see so many separatist worlds. So many people, so many aliens who should actually be siding with Palpatine, and then there's none. I am racking my brain. I cannot see a singular alien face.
Yeah, they're all in the rebellion.
Mind blown.
And that's one of the excuses a lot of people are using for post Empire is, why we don't see too many aliens in a lot of the shows that take place after is because, I don't know, genocide is because I know the Empire was supposed to be very closely related to the Nazis and World War II style. And so they're trying to mimic that army off of that. And so that's why there's only basically just humans in the ranks of the Empire. Because Palpatine felt they were superior.
There's an entire Reddit, like subreddit on this.
Oh yeah, you can find so much backstory on this because like we could probably do a few podcasts on it, just talking the history and how everything ties in, and where George Lucas got a lot of his like inspiration ideas for certain aspects of not only the rebellion but the Empire and everything.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense why Morgan Elsbeth just becomes so erratic, especially in the third episode, because it took they did the timeline of her and the Separatists, then a timeline her time in the Empire, and then her time after the fall of the Empire. And the New Republic is very aware of her and is like, "Well, we're gonna arrest you if you don't stand down." She's like, "Ha, you're a joke."
Yeah. I want to talk about something very small in the first episode, the Mountain Clan matron's power. What was that? It
Mhm.
looked so overpowered. It looked great. What is it?
I was looking at it this way. So you get the Night Sisters, right? And so maybe they are very similar to the Night. I basically put the light side version of the Night Sisters.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was looking at it. Like the light side generally is more powerful because it's more focused rather than chaotic with hatred and anger blinding you. And so they're able to focus their power a lot more than just straight evil stuff. And
Yeah,
so
probably much less corrupt because no necromancy and so on as well.
yeah, so it's a lot more refined, I would say. And we don't even know the extent of her ability. We just know she did that like little force bubble. Because I do know in Legends, because even Darth Bane did something like that with it's called, he did like some type of bubble that just wiped out any light side user or any life around him. So it makes sense that they have those type of abilities, but they probably just take a lot of energy to do it, so it's not done quite as frequent.
All right. Thank you.
What does Sam think?
Sam was just happy listening to the explanation. I mean, just sort of, is that like what I think about the whole Morgan story, or just like this specific thing about if the mountain folk are more light side users?
Yes.
Then yes. No, I kind of got that vibe anyway, that they're again sort of very yin and yang, which we've mentioned countless times now. Because it did feel like, you've got the Night Sisters, and then this is the lighter equivalent. So to have it was like the balance in the Force type thing. So I kind of got the feeling that it was more, they were more inclined to be like the light side of the Force instead of like the Night Sisters who used necromancy and death.
Yeah, because their views are very similar to like the Jedi. Because she's like, hey, just because we choose not to fight doesn't mean we are not capable of defending ourselves. And because the Jedi are more about defensive and never offensive, and these mountain clan, they're hidden away in the mountains. They're like, okay, well, they're focused on the Night Sisters because they only think the Night Sisters exist here. And now we just revealed ourselves because Morgan was seeking revenge and trying to get weapons. And so that's kind of what I got from them. Is like I just put basically cool light magic or light side magic.
I was thinking about this before because I mean, I'm not sure. Does this happen on the planet Dathomir? I think so, right? That's where
Dathomir, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about this when we were watching the Clone Wars series. I kept thinking, like, this cannot be normal. There cannot be a planet full of just dark force users, magic users. Like, there has to be other people there. And the Mountain Clan actually answers that question for me. Because
Well,
in
I mean,
the
we do.
times we see very one-sided Dathomir.
Well, no, because we also see Darth Maul's people.
Yeah.
That are not really associated with the Night Sisters. They may be pulled as warriors from the Dathomirian or Zabrak people, but they only focus on the Night Sisters and the Zabraks, and I think they just call them Night Brothers. So they're kind of like a different clan, but also associated. Because I know in Fallen Order, we go to Dathomir and we fight a bunch of Night Brothers, and it's I forget the character's name. She's the only Night Sister left, trying to protect. And so I do think that it is cool. It's not just these two cultures there. It's like, nope, there's another one that's just kind of hidden away in the mountains, and they probably just want nothing to do with each other, so they don't interact with each other. And they were just never important until now, because there's, oh, look at all them, they're getting wiped out. But we're nice enough. Morgan, your people are done, but we saved you. You're welcome to stay with us, or go do your own thing.
Yeah. Then, yeah, we go to the second episode, which is the Path of Anger, and we see the Morgan Elsbeth as a part of the Empire. Something that I really enjoyed there was Morgan Elsbeth being the mastermind behind the better TIE fighters that we see.
I forget what they're called.
Good question.
TIE Defender.
Is it?
Yeah, I just Googled it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to Google it too, but sounds faster.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed seeing that we saw a different side to Morgan Elsbeth. She is a very useful person in a lot of different senses, and I can also understand why she becomes so very jaded about people keeping rejecting her. I had the talent and like dual-sidedness of her, I would have been feeling the same. If I
Oh
kept
yeah,
getting
because she's like I said, she's trying to find her family. She's trying to find her purpose and place, but she just can't. And even the people that she feels would be more inclined to understand her reject her. And I think that's why Thrawn is a vital role for her, because she's ready to go. She comes back and her people are like, "Hey, you promised all this." She's like, "Well, the Empire rejected me. What do you want me to do about it?" And she's standing on the wall looking over people. She's like, "These aren't my people." She's like, "I did all this stuff for them, and yet they turned their back on me." Which is funny because I just saw a quote the other day. It's like, people will forget years of good, but only for the hate of a minute. And so it's just like, I did all this good for them, and now they're hating me for something.
And one of the first insults that is just lobbed is witch.
Yeah.
That you see immediately how much she's discriminated against, not accepted, not loved.
Yeah, and that one guy seems to have it out for her, because they see her fighting Rook on the wall, and they're like, should we alert security? He's like, no, wait. He's like, let her die.
Also, that was a very cool scene.
Very cool scene.
I enjoyed her using the
Scar spear
spear before. I love every single time that sphere touches a surface, there is a very specific sound that it makes, and it just,
the reverberation, yeah.
yeah, it just makes me giddy hearing that.
No, it's really cool. I really enjoyed getting to see a little bit more, especially in the third episode, because the New Republic lady, I forget her name, comes and basically tries to take over, and she's like, "Oh no, we're gonna close the doors. I'm killing every single one of you," and we got to see her use that spear a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on to the third episode, though, we see Admiral Thrawn, not the Grand
Admiral Thrawn, yeah.
Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, seeing him again was cool.
Weirdly, how like the different stages of Morgan's journey that we see are different stages in like the psyche. So you know, it's the grief in the first episode. It's not acceptance because she doesn't accept it, but she kind of has to then move on. But the last one's kind of bordering on like semi-insanity. She doesn't want to give up. She knows that she's got the forces behind her. It's just like she wants to stay in power for as long as possible when she knows that everything out, like she's the winner at this point. So she's kind of gone mad. She's gone mad with the power.
I think you touched something great there about like it's also reflecting the stages of grief in a way, but it's not ending up with acceptance. It is not ending up in a mentally healthy and stable place.
Because she's projecting her anger outward rather than trying to calm the storm within her. And so everything outside of her starts to become this big storm because she annihilates these rebels, or this New Republic, and spares a civilian, threatens him, basically like, don't try this again. He's like, they need you more than I need you. Just remember that. And so she goes out and just basically goes on an annihilation with her security force all across the rooftops, and then the whole place. Now we see why that lush forest around her is all burnt, and I think Sam's right because she has a touch of madness. She's like the forest will still burn, and you guys are going to be working day and night. Like
and that kind of then links back in with the episode titles for this, because you've got the path of fear. The fear is, you know, she's the last one of her kind. Then the path of anger is that she keeps getting the rejections and she's not where she wants to be in her life. And then the path of hate is, again,
betrayal.
She's victorious, but at what cost?
Her people betrayed her and forced her hand, and we see like the whole time this is not what she wanted. And we see those different stages because she's like, I'm trying to help these people, but now they're turning on me. So it's pushing her to be something else so she doesn't lose her control. She has to become something more. And madness is where it comes from because she just holds on to it.
Yeah, she cannot make them love her, so she's going to make them fear her.
So overall, I really liked her story. I do think that all these episodes were a little too short, but they gave enough information, I think.
I like that we got the connections to a lot of different things. Especially on the third episode, basically we hear on the distress signal Bo-Katan. So that's our tie-in to Mandalorian season 2 and how Ahsoka and I mean that is my theory, of course, but I don't see any other reason why. I just also don't understand why would a Republic official be sending a distress call to Bo-Katan? That was...
I got it as it was just a generic distress call, and Bo-Katan was just the first one to pick it up.
Okay.
That could be it. Yeah.
This is sort of coming from like every other sci-fi thing that I've seen, where it's like, send a distress signal. Who to? Just send one. Like, we do not care who helps at this point.
That's very Star Trek.
Well, I mean, that does make sense, because if she's trying to send a distress call back to the New Republic, by the time they get there, it's not going to do anything. And so I like that generic distress call, because then Bo-Katan is like, okay, well, what's going down on Corvus? Okay, Ahsoka, check this out. And then that gives us the whole tie of why Ahsoka knows Morgan. And why they start to have the whole Thrawn investigation. It's like, where's that Grand Admiral Thrawn? And all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
Because I just felt bad for him.
I love that we got the backstory of Morgan, because it wasn't really touched on in sort of anything else that we've seen.
Mm-mm.
She was just the character that was there. We got a bit more in Ahsoka when, you know, with the whole Thrawn reveal and storyline, but there still wasn't the full backstory. So to see it in the length of episodes that it was, I think it was like dead on how long the episode should have been. Any more, and you start getting more political, you know, you kind of would lose more interest in it when it's like, all you need to see is this brief snippet of where she's at, in what stage of her life she's in, and that's good enough for me. It just gives that just enough information without going overboard.
I really thought the episodes were also the perfect amount of time. It was 14 to 16 minutes all. I think it gave me everything I needed in very small snippets.
Yeah, because what I put down in my notes is they were short but straight to the point.
Yeah.
For something like this, it is basically, the whole project could be seen as a filler, but I think it gave us such good snippets in the timeline that it felt like it was background just to enrich the entire story and the character arcs. I did not feel like it was just made for the sake of making it.
No, I mean, that's kind of how I see it too, and especially with Tales of the Jedi as well. There's questions that we have that they have so many things that they're going to do, and they don't want to create a whole new show just to be able to flush out a couple seasons to give answers. So I like Tales of the Jedi because it reminds me of the books, like Tales from Jabba's Palace, Tales of the Bounty Hunters. It's like their own story. It's just a quick thing, and you don't need to make a whole series out of it. And it's like, okay, we introduced Morgan, and we kind of developed her post-Empire and with her role with Ahsoka, but why is she associated with Thrawn? Why is she trying to seek out Thrawn? And I believe this just answers it, because they have history. And they even mention, because when she's walking, she's like, I have a vision, or I received a vision or something. I'm like, okay, that's probably the Night Sisters calling out to her. And that also ties in Ahsoka.
I just realized also one thing, why Thrawn would go to such a length to get Morgan Elsbeth on his side, because he is extremely intelligent, and he also puts so much value on intelligence. And with Morgan Elsbeth's plans and how she conducts herself and so on, I think he sees the potential in her.
Yeah, because he even shut down the TIE Defender. He's like, no, it's too costly. But if we do this and we do this, we can probably make it work. It's like, everybody else didn't give you the chance, but you're smart. So, but we can work better together.
You're smart. You're ambitious. You are malleable because you're emotionally damaged.
But you're
else?
smart enough not to like be manipulated. And you can defend yourself if you need to.
Yeah.
So overall, I really did like her whole story arc. A lot of good information, and I did put the visuals on the show, especially when we get into Barris' story. A lot of the way that they decided to animate and give us certain scenes, very very well done on the animation. Like it's almost some points I almost thought it was a real scene with how good they're getting with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much sort of like Bad Batch level animation plus, it's like the next step in the evolution of the Star Wars animations.
It's just crazy with what they're doing with technology, because even with the new Tron movie coming out, Kurt Russell's is coming back out, and with the deepfake animation and stuff, they're able to bring him, digitalize him back to his younger self, and it looks pretty crazy. So I'm loving with the evolution
Tron.
of animation. Huh?
No more Tron. Just no more Tron, please.
They're doing it, sadly. Tron Legacy was enough.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't want any more Tron, because of that. But you are correct though. Like the level of animation, it's gone from sort of very flat looking, i.e., like 2005 era 2D Clone Wars, series, to almost real looking.
Yeah.
And that's incredible for me.
I really enjoyed seeing the Inquisitors and their lightsabers in this animation style. Thoughts?
Just because Morgan's story was not a character I really wanted to see, but I enjoyed, and I liked a lot of the stuff that we got from her. But Barris, when they introduced Barris, because I know so much about her in Clone Wars and everything, that I've been wanting to know more about her. And so it's a very interesting arc that they chose to do with her, because when we last see her, she's at the Jedi Temple framing Ahsoka, and I kind of looked at it like she wasn't completely evil back then. She just saw something different. She made a mistake.
The Jedi are evil.
Yes, and
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, she wasn't wrong. Like, I see why she did what she did.
Yeah.
But
I hated this arc. Like, hate is the wrong word. I disliked it. From the trailer, when we had the appearance of Vader, I thought that part there was going to be something between Barris and Vader, because they've got history. They swing. So I like the first part where we got to see Order 66 happening from a different point of view.
And we didn't actually see Order 66. We just got to see her in prison seeing the temple on fire.
I actually thought, though, and this still kind of makes me think, I thought they were just trying to wipe out most Force sensitive people during that. Not because she was still kind of a Jedi at that point.
But she's been in prison for so long. And because I even made a note, it's like, okay, Ahsoka said she wasn't a Jedi. Barris is in prison, so she's technically not a Jedi by Jedi standards, or at least by the Jedi Council. And they didn't suppress her Force abilities like we see in Knights of the Republic for exiles. And so she's sitting in the cell, is still able to use the Force, but because she's probably still a good person, she never thought to try to escape or use it, or maybe she just didn't think she'd be able to do it because there's probably other Jedi, or they're probably prepared for it or whatnot. But because the clones were like, just be glad you're not a Jedi. And I was like, well, they turned on Ahsoka, and Ahsoka technically wasn't a Jedi, but I mean, you could argue it's because she was leading a clone battalion, and so to the clones, she looked like a Jedi.
Yeah, see that's the one part of this whole now plot of Barris's character that I just don't understand. You know, she was a Jedi. She was higher up than Ahsoka was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they were believing Barris more than they were Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So why is it that Ahsoka, who very clearly wasn't a Jedi, she was just a Force user at that point, targeted by the clones? Yes, you could say that it's because she had a battalion of clones, but she was just then like their leader. It not.
Well, I mean,
she never went back and said specifically, "I'm a Jedi again, guys. Let's all party. Let's all hang out." It was more.
No, but they do address it though. They did address it in that arc with Ahsoka, because Rex was trying to convince the other clones, well, she's not a Jedi anymore. She left the Order, and they addressed it there. I forget exactly how they justified it, but I do know that they tackled it there.
And that's why I'm sort of more annoyed about Barris not being killed straight away. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that she wasn't, because, you know, we get more of the story. But from a sort of in-universe point, should she have not been shot straight away?
This is my logic on it. Because Darth Maul was... I'm pretty sure we had the discussion before, but Darth Maul was in a Force suppression cage type thing in an actual prison. And when Order 66 happened, the clones turned off his field and went in to try and kill him. And he's not even a Jedi. He's just a Sith user. Or he's just a Sith. And so I would equate him as the same as Barris at that point.
My thoughts on this is like this. They still need Inquisitors and some such Force users to keep hunting Force-sensitive people and the rest of the Jedi. So I think there is a process for Darth Maul. Obviously, he was imprisoned. I mean, he was against the Emperor. So he was, of course, executed. But for the rest, as we see, there's a process. Because otherwise, how do we have any of the Inquisitors? There has to be Force-sensitive, ex-Jedi, whoever, people susceptible to corruption.
Well, the Grand Inquisitor, he was one of the Jedi Temple Guards. And so this is where I kind of have to jump with Sam on this, is it's another thing where they don't really explain. Like, Order 66 is to kill all Jedi. But now we need an explanation of why were some Jedi spared and why were others killed.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a very big question mark. I hope we somehow get an answer to this.
Yeah, that's a big plot hole.
Yeah.
Next year, Tales of Order 66.
There you go. All right, Dave Filoni, Lucasfilm, if you're hearing this, let's go Disney.
Sam specifically wants it because of all the murdering Jedi. I mean,
yes.
Not at all.
A very specific episode for the younglings.
But there's a little... I like this whole arc with Barris, though. Because Star Wars has this whole thing. It's like, it's always a story of failure and redemption. And Morgan kind of went down the dark path and didn't ever see the light to be able to be redeemed. We know Anakin did atrocious things, but in the end, he redeemed himself, not excusing what he did, but he was no longer that person.
Did he do atrocious things?
This again.
I cannot.
I am kidding. No, you are completely correct. No.
And then he got redeemed because he's no longer that same person, and so that's why he was able to become Force Ghost. And that's what I like about Barris, is like, yes, she was imprisoned, and now she's given this opportunity to do worse things. And instead of being like Morgan, she ends up choosing a different path, because ultimately, deep down, she's good and not that person, whereas Morgan was. And so I really liked this arc. Just kind of gave a redemption to Barriss, because when I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, she's going to be an Inquisitor. Okay, that's cool. Maybe they're setting up for her to meet Ahsoka in the future. And that's not where they went at all with this.
No. One of the things that I found most impossible in episode 4, Devoted, is the fact that very recently turned Darth Vader would look Barriss Offee in the eye and not force choke her.
That is exactly the
not-
problem that I have.
I think I brought that question up when we were discussing the trailer when it first came out, because I
Yeah.
was like,
That's not
I
on
feel-
character for Darth Vader.
no, but I mean, at this point, he sees Ahsoka as a Jedi, and he may have remorse for her, but
But
I
that would
don't,
take away the Rebels episode where they are fighting everything.
because he finds out she's alive. At this point, he thinks she's dead.
But still.
No, I get it too, because that's something that I want. I'm just trying to make sense of it. Like, maybe they're Inquisitors. Maybe he thinks she's gonna die anyways because of something. So maybe it doesn't have to be by his hand, but
I think just the backstory and the history of the between the two, whether it's Anakin or Vader, whichever side of the coin that one is, there's still going to be some pretty peed off moments between them, and
yeah,
I think we did sort of discuss, would there be the fight between the two, like how would that, what is going to happen, and just for the lack of recognition, like, Ahsoka kind of figured out eventually that Vader was Anakin. How I think
I'm just gonna put this way.
I didn't like these because there was just too many questions based on what we already know.
This is probably a little bit of a stretch also on this one, but maybe at the point Anakin believed in the Jedi Order, and he was definitely on the side of Ahsoka's, but maybe at this point he's looking at Barriss and going, "You were right. I should have listened to you." It's like, you framed my Padawan, but your goal was the right thing to do.
I feel like this. Anakin Darth Vader never ever forgives Obi-Wan because of what happened with Padme. The Anakin Darth Vader I know would never ever forgive Barriss Offee, think that she's right, whatever, justified.
Yeah.
Just because of what happened with Ahsoka.
I just said it was a stretch. Because I agree. No, I'm kidding with you. But because the way that I see Anakin is exactly how you see him, and that's the only way that I can be okay with him not killing her. It's like, okay, well, you're an Inquisitor now, and okay, well, you get a second chance now.
But then we see it with Reva. Is that her name?
Yeah.
And again, like, he knows who she is. He's just kind of been toying with her.
That is true.
And that's somebody that is, was just sort of spared from Order 66 by sheer fluke. She played dead. This is somebody that really messed Anakin's head up. Like,
here's another thought too.
So
let's see if this is a good argument on that one. Nobody knows who Anakin Skywalker is. Anakin's dead as far as everybody knows. Vader is Vader. So if Anakin killed Barriss just out of revenge, people would start asking questions, and that kind of give away his identity. He'd be like, "You framed Ahsoka, so I'm going to kill you." She's like, "Why do you care about Ahsoka? You're Darth Vader." Because when Vader was in his chambers, when he was getting, like, when his helmet was off, anybody that saw him, he killed.
I honestly, for example, I can tell you this. I really expected Darth Vader plot to go somewhere, not just stay like this. That was a bit disappointing to me because in see episode 6 because I was watching it today and it was really bright in here and the episodes are quite dark. So when I
Mhm.
saw the silhouette in episode 6, I did not think of Lynn. I immediately
I thought it was Vader too.
Yeah.
because it should have been.
I mean,
That's not her name anymore. She's called the Fourth Sister, guys. Come on, be respectful.
I'm glad that it was that twist that it wasn't Vader, if I'm honest. Because while, we've just said that we was all expecting that, to have that twist that it wasn't Vader, it was someone that, was basically Barris's new master. Like, to have that was more of a payoff, I think, than just throwing in, you can throw in Vader into anything and, it's Vader, he's awesome.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have meant as much unless there was that reveal that Barris knew that Vader was Anakin.
And yeah, because Vader only goes down when his Inquisitors can't do the job. Those are the only times Vader goes in instead of an Inquisitor.
That's true. I just definitely also think first Barris steering away from the dark side was way too easy, and her steering the Fourth Sister away was way too easy too.
Barris, I don't think so, because she was always a Jedi. The only thing that she did that was maybe close to being the dark side is questioning the Jedi's motives. But she never went to slaughter the Jedi. And she spent time in prison just thinking about the whole thing. So I never really saw Barris as evil. I just thought she was just a precursor to Anakin. And because even when she was being trained by the Grand Inquisitor, he was forcing the anger to come out of her. And I think deep down she's still good, because we see that, because she doesn't even want to kill her friend Dante, but he's the one that strikes first at her.
She just like straight up force choke, broke neck, killed. I think
Survival.
Oh, come on.
Because even before then, she was trying to tell Dante, she's like, we don't have to do this. And he's like, nope, we do. And she's not going to let him win.
That was
survival.
She knew she was going to win. She knew she was capable of killing. That was out of pity. I think we're giving Barris too much leeway.
I'm just saying, based off of the character, because like even she always came across as even in Clone Wars, I never saw her as evil. I just think she saw the Jedi for what they were and was trying to do whatever it was. But because we see the transition from her, because we see that she doesn't like to kill. She's capable, but doesn't mean she likes to. Because when we get into the next episode, episode 5, she's doing everything she can to protect these people. And she even takes off the mask to the kid to make him more comfortable. Like, hey, see, I'm just a person. Like, you can tell me. It's like, where's this Jedi? Trust me, it's going to be the good for everybody. Because I think Barris was at this point going, I'm not trying to kill this Jedi because I'm told to kill this Jedi. Tell me where this Jedi is so your village doesn't get wiped out. And Barris was even shocked when Lynn is like, no, this guy swore to me that they didn't know where he was, so I'm going to kill every single one of them. And she was even a little bit more compassionate on the child because they leave the thing, and she's like, don't look back. And then she blocked his view so he couldn't see all the dead bodies. Lynn is the one that I felt was way out of left field. That one, I can't even begin to understand why she cared about Barris so much to make the change that she did. Because she just slaughtered a whole village, and she's definitely an Inquisitor. And they're not meant to be compassionate. They're not supposed to. It's like, oh, my apprentice died, so now I'm gonna turn my back on the Inquisitors or whatnot. That's just not what they do.
I guess that's the first few waves of Inquisitors that they haven't been able to scratch the light side out of them. Very dark.
Probably. Because Barris even tries to save the Jedi at the end. He's like, just surrender. He's like, we don't need to kill you. And Lynn's like, nope, we're killing him. And she ends up going, you know what? This isn't for me.
I don't know. I see Barris maybe as the complete opposite of Ahsoka. Maybe that's why I'm so harsh on her. Because they basically have the same arc. They both are disillusioned. They both go through similar things. And yeah, I believe.
I think we focus too much on her history and what she's done rather than the type of person she actually is. Because it's easy to see somebody that frames Ahsoka because she's got her own agenda. So we're like, okay, she must be evil. She's no good. She's blah blah blah. And so now we're seeing her here. We're like, no, she's not allowed to have a redemption arc. But she's just doing what she needs to do to survive at this point. And she ultimately makes the right choice. Because she saves that Jedi. She's like, I'm going to heal you. I'm not going to let you die. And so begs the question, where does this Jedi go now?
This could be me basically just reflecting my morals on characters. Because, for example, for me, Darth Vader is not redeemed. There is no such thing.
I can see that, but I mean, I look at life as it's not all black and white. It's like 99% gray area. And we look at Anakin's past, we look at how he's treated, we look at how Barriss was treated, we look at even Morgan, how she was treated. And there's a lot more that goes into their character and the choices they make that don't make them bad people, just make them stupid people. They just make stupid mistakes, but ultimately,
it actually makes them much better characters.
Mm-hmm.
Much more complex characters, and I understand that. That's just definitely me.
But I totally see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's me reflecting my morals and expecting the same thing from my characters that I love.
Yeah.
See, I found Barris's arc in this, and with the backstory that we know, a almost direct parallel to Anakin's, in the way that both were Jedi, both were kind of corrupted in knowing that something was up with the Jedi. It's just then you've got Anakin who takes the branch of becoming Vader and
what, genocide?
Yeah, and Barriss
didn't do genocide.
She did, but
she did a little damage.
It wasn't to the same extent. She was in prison at the time of 66. So it's still, you still got the parallels, but they're slowly branching off bit by bit. Whereas Vader then is, we see him redeem himself at the end only because of his son. But he's still done all the other bad stuff, before that. Whereas Barriss, she was always in that grey area. She used the Force, to choke someone and kill them. But I have to think that was just to survive. She was going to survive. That's all she wanted to do. And that's why in the titles of these episodes, it kind of makes more sense, when we've got devoted. She was devoted to the cause of just surviving at this point. She was told straight away that the Jedi were dead, like by the stormtrooper that said, by tomorrow there will be no Jedi left.
Yeah, because at the end of Devoted, Vader's sitting down and then it's like, long live the Empire, and she's hesitant, being very hesitant to put the helmet on and hesitant to say long live the Empire because she didn't really believe in it.
But even with that, putting the helmet on, again, you've got the parallel with Anakin, who has to wear the helmet, whereas Barriss doesn't. So there's still, you've still got the two branches there running parallel. And then in realization, it's that what she's doing is wrong. And that's where her redemption arc starts coming into play. Yes, she's done some atrocious things by this point, but she's still morally good.
Yeah,
And
because she
then-
tried to protect the whole village, and then she turns on her
Yeah.
master, who her master's like, no, they don't care. This guy's a Jedi. She's like, okay, well, you still have one more Jedi to fight, and then Force pushes her off the cliff
I'm just going
and
to say,
becomes
how
the healer.
cool was that?
Oh, that was really cool. I did like that scene a lot. The whole night scene in Fog Fight with the lightsaber. The fight scenes I thought were really well done in this series. But
Yeah.
back to the
Yeah.
topic, so we don't. I don't want to get you off track.
And then The Way Out, to me, like even just reading the titles now, The Way Out, now that we know what happens to Barriss, is that death is the only
Mhm.
way out of what she's become. She knows that she's done messed up stuff. She wants to
Mhm.
be redeemed, and that was the only way to go. Like that was always going to happen. She knew that she was going to die.
And I think that's why they did the whole cave thing, because I think there's a lot of symbology with that, because Lynn, I still see her fourth sister. I don't see how she redeemed. She seemed evil from the start, and is very devoted in her belief system. And
Yeah.
there's no way that I would have ever seen her make the change. But you go into this cave and you see these reflections of Fourth Sister trying to get out, and Barriss tells her before, it's like, don't chase the kid, I'm telling you, and you go in there, you're not going to come out because you don't know the path. And Fourth Sister's in there seeing so many reflections of herself and attacking everything that she doesn't understand, and attacking visions of herself or visuals of herself. And then you have Barriss overarching with the sound, I'm over here, I can help you out, blah, blah. And I thought that was very symbolic of, you're going to fight, you're going to go take this kid, you're kidnapping kids for the Empire, you're going on the path of the dark side. You go down that path, you don't know the way out of it, so don't do it. And she goes in there and realizes, okay, I'm in here, and Barriss is acting as the voice of the conscience. It's like, there's still hope, you can still get out. And only then, when she kills Barriss and realizes what she did wrong, still very, very easy and very sudden for the Four Sisters change, but she throws her lightsaber down and turns good, and then now she's able to get herself out of that cave. I don't know if you guys caught that symbology between the path, or if I explained it right, but that's kind of how I saw it.
Yeah, I also saw it as a parallel to the to that weird part in Empire that just kills the movie dead. When
Hey, don't be talking bad about Empire.
It's that one bit in Empire that, you know, in Dagobah, you know, Dagobah.
Dagobah.
I'm not even gonna try.
It's okay. It's okay. You're British. We say
I'm
things
British.
different.
And
Man.
I'm gonna.
You guys can argue. I say it. You guys can argue. I pronounce it wrong.
Yeah. So you know, it's that
If you're gonna
bit
say that
when-
cave with Vader and Luke,
yeah.
All right, you're getting muted right now. We're done.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But no, to me, while again not a sort of perfect parallel, there were elements of that in The Way Out, in the cave system, that there was in Dagobah. Luke went into the caves of Dagobah and didn't know what to expect. He was looking for the right way to go, and it's very much the same here. That, you know, again, it's just those parallels there.
No, 100%. It's like, it's the choices you make. You going in, you're not going to come out the same.
Yeah.
If you ever come out of it, and it's just like the past lives. Just don't, like, you're making this choice. You're chasing a kid. You go down that path, you're not coming back from it. Because we see all the other Inquisitors, especially in Rebels, they're just ruthless.
But I really also enjoy seeing, we also see it with Riva. We also see a different side to the Inquisitors as well. So there are some gray area, morally gray people in the Empire as well. It's not just as black and white as I want it to be.
Yeah.
It confuses me when I have my villains doing good things and when I have my heroes doing bad things.
It,
I want it
I
to
mean,
be
because like Rogue One, we see the good guys doing bad things, and I think that's one thing that I really like about Star Wars is the characters are so complicated. It's
A New Hope. They are literally called rebels.
yeah,
They're quintessentially terrorists of the Star Wars universe.
you're not
Like,
wrong.
If you, like, I know. So for context, Fluffy is now just laughing at that. But if you break it,
Doesn't
down
mean
to
their cause wasn't good, but
yeah,
to the Empire they were terrorists. To them,
Yeah.
they were a bunch of revolutionists.
yeah, they're coming across as the good guys that want to make the change, but how they're
It's like the
doing
Revolutionary War when we broke free from the British. Like we were saw as terrorists against the British Empire.
This conversation is going somewhere great. I'll just be listening.
I'm just making a joke because my British friend here, but I mean, continue.
But essentially, you are correct. There is that parallel again and we've mentioned it already. The history behind, like, real world history has influenced again how this has become. So where you've got, like, the terrorists, they are the good guys, but they're not really they're not the good guys. They are people that are doing heinous things to get what they want. Who else would blow up a Death Star? Yes, it's blown up planets, but they have also murdered countless amounts of people
Millions.
to get what they want. So in the Star Wars universe, having quote unquote good guys and bad guys isn't really the right way to put it. You've got less good guys and less bad guys, but Anakin is that line between the two where he was a war hero that became a war criminal that became Darth Vader. So
the boy who was enslaved and was pulled from his mom, even though it was his choice, because he watched Phantom Menace, but he regrets leaving, and then he comes back to save her, only to find out that she's dead.
Yeah.
And then his love with Padme, and there's just so much mental stuff going on with Anakin. He just didn't have the right people in his life to direct him the way. Because I mean, even the Jedi Council was against him, and you had somebody like Palpatine being his best friend.
Well, Fluffy and I we talked about this while doing the watch party, that had Qui-Gon trained Anakin, how different would that be?
Oh, that's one of my biggest one of the biggest things I've thought about all the time. Is like Anakin would not be Anakin if Qui-Gon trained him.
And it's kind of because Qui-Gon, again, Fluffy, apologies because you've already heard me rant about this already, but Qui-Gon had a different sense of what the Jedi were. He was kind of like really he was the last remaining true Jedi. You've got the Jedi,
because Obi-Wan was like, "Oh, Master, not again! You're defying the Council again."
Yeah. Whereas you had the Council that were high up in their ivory tower. They've lost sight of what it is to be a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if you read the book Master and Apprentice, you get to see his relationship with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was very strict by the book. Like, everything's black and white. There's no gray area at all. Qui-Gon's like, no, we can do this and we can do that. We won't overstep the boundary here, but there's more gray area for Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon understood. Because in the book, they're talking because Qui-Gon was looking at the prophecies and everything in the future, and the Jedi Council is like, oh no, the prophecies, trying to seek out the future and visions and stuff, that's dark side stuff. And Qui-Gon's like, no, it's not. It just depends on how you use it. And so Qui-Gon would have taught Anakin a little bit better. Anakin was forced to make some decisions that he would normally not make.
Qui-Gon would have been a loving parent.
Mhm.
He would have not just been a master, but he would have been a mentor. He would have been a parent. He would have been a lot of things. I mean, I think you and I talked about this, Mark, in the behind the scenes documentary about The Mandalorian, where Dave Filoni is talking about Duel of the Fates.
Mhm.
This is basically the idea behind it. What would have happened if Anakin was raised by Qui-Gon rather than Obi-Wan? It's the whole point of it. That's why the piece of music is called Duel of the Fates. And it's glaringly obvious. Obi-Wan resents the fact that he has to train Anakin. And Obi-Wan is also very, very arrogant, like the rest of the Jedi Council is. I
Mhm.
mean, when we watched Phantom Menace on Saturday, I saw literally, like, even the body language of the Masters, Mace Windu. I mean, that might be the Samuel L. Jackson in him, but I was thinking, like, what is this? This is so, like,
Even
nose in the air. I
we
don't.
even got to see irritated Yoda,
Yeah.
because Qui-Gon's last words are "train the boy," and Obi-Wan sitting there talking to Yoda, and he's like, "I'm going to train the kid without your acceptance or not." And Yoda's like sitting there pacing back and forth, getting really annoyed and mad. He's like, "Oh, the council doesn't agree. Fine,
I
do
mean,
it." And so you see the arrogance even in Yoda at that point.
yeah. And when you look at it, you see from what we learned afterwards about Qui-Gon, he was the most in touch with the Force from the beginning. He is the 1st one to turn to the Force Ghost. He was the one actually who trained their master in the ways of the Force, even after death. So I think...
And I will say he learned a lot of that from Count Dooku, because when we get to Tales of the Jedi, we'll see that Count Dooku did some questionable stuff that even Qui-Gon didn't agree with. But you can kind of see why he is a little bit more in the gray area. Not to the extreme of Count Dooku, but he knows his boundaries, and he knows that some things can be questioned.
Yeah, he is still in touch with his emotions. That is the
Yeah.
one thing that separates him from the rest, because Jedi somehow wanted to get rid of attachments, but they forgot how to feel and empathize in the long run.
So the way to sort of tie it back in is, at this point, Barriss, the Jedi are long dead, but Barriss still holds on to the more Qui-Gon side of the Force. She was the one that realized that the Jedi weren't what the Jedi should be, and that caused her to act out. Whether or not it was in the right way that she, the way she went about it in Clone Wars,
Correct.
is another question. But in this, we see her go full circle and realize, again, sort of very similar to how Qui-Gon was in the Phantom Menace, that okay, so the Jedi had flaws, but I'm still one of them. I'm going to be at peace with what I've done. I've done terrible things, but she redeemed herself by kind of using Qui-Gon philosophies.
Yeah, because that's kind of how I saw it too. It's like, yes, exactly how you described it. Like, she did what she thought she had to do at that time, and now we see her become devoted to this Inquisitor people. Because if she didn't agree to Lane, then she probably would have just been killed there right on the spot. So then she goes to the Inquisitors, starts to realize, okay, well, I don't have to be stuck in this, and then she finds the way out. And so she accepts it within herself and tries to do better and become that healer to help other people. So she may not be able to redeem herself from what she did, but she can do what she can to help everybody from there on out.
we have to. I mean, I should start thinking about her like this. She's a survivor. She knows how to
Mhm.
adapt, and she also, in the end, turns into the person who helps others survive.
Yeah, because that's how I look at it. Like, I follow a lot of motivational pages, and it's like, oh, you can't change your past, but you can change your future. And that's kind of where I see Barris is at. She can't change her past, but she can do what she can to make the future better. Because
Yeah.
she could have chose to leave the Jedi there and walk away with Len and let him die, but she's like, no, this isn't right. It's like, I may have done this in the past, but no, making a decision now. I'm going to save this person. And as far as I know, that Jedi's still alive because of Barris. I'm just kidding. But that's just what I like about Star Wars is like you have these characters, complex characters with bad past, but they make that redemption. You don't excuse what they did in the past, but you accept that they've changed and they're doing what they can to fix it. Because even Kylo Ren, he made a huge redemption, did a lot of terrible things too, and ends up becoming Ben Solo again and saving Rey and giving his life for her.
Thanks to you guys saying these things, I realized that I haven't seen any of these characters redeemed. I have thought, okay, they just did one good deed at the end of their miserable lives.
No, their backstory is very complex, and the emotional stuff that's going inside their head is what truly makes them do the things they did. Because if I look at Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker, I mean not Luke Skywalker, Anakin and Barris, and if they were in a different situation, different mindset, they probably wouldn't have made the same choices.
Yeah, I mean, with Anakin, if and again, sort of with Barris in this, if the Clone Wars never happened, it's a safe bet to say that none of this would.
Order 66 wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
And I can't see Anakin wiping out the whole order by himself without clone troopers.
yeah, he would be
Or army, at least.
Yeah, so I think it's the series of events that have led up to these characters that have caused their mindset to change. So like with Anakin and Barris, they are going to be suffering from some serious PTSD.
Mhm.
They've had to endure being on different planets, fighting non-stop. Towards the end of the Clone Wars, both of them are
Not to mention watching people they care about die.
Yeah. So there's that mental toll. There's the mental toll of actually just being drained. Like, back to tanks exist, but physically and mentally, they're exhausted. And you again putting the parallels between Barrisofi and Anakin Skywalker, you can see the paths that they chose by the sheer fact of what they've had to go through. It's just, where do they then start redeeming themselves and thinking, wait, what I've done is not right? And with Anakin, it's because of Luke. Luke is the one that brings Anakin back to the fold, in the way that it gives Anakin something to fight for again, and that's the only life he's really known. He was thrown from a fight that he saw between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul to a fight in the Clone Wars to then just constantly fighting. And
Ahsoka leaving him.
Yeah, Ahsoka leaving him, having to hide his relationship. It's all things that would cause mass amounts of stress. And then having a son that he thought had died, because really, if you start watching A New Hope, or the end of A New Hope and Empire, and especially Return of the Jedi, you can see Vader's mindset is changing when he realizes that Luke is his son, and he's then questioning what the Emperor is doing. So much so.
No, it's not even that. Like that doesn't happen until he sees Luke down on the ground standing up for what he believes. because he finds out that Luke is his son. His first thought in Empire is, no, together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. And even in Return of the Jedi, you can see Vader. This is what I love about Star Wars. Like, they're very masked, but you can see the conflict that's going on through their mind just by the way they stand. And because Luke is even talking, it's like, hey, Anakin, no, don't call me Anakin. That guy's dead. And that starts to trigger memories for him. And it's like, okay, this kid sees Anakin. He doesn't see Darth Vader. And he's like, everybody else looks at me like I did this atrocious thing, but I got this person standing here going, no, you're Anakin Skywalker. And I think that's the beginning of the trigger, because he still takes him up to the Emperor to face him, because at that point Vader's like, well, you can't really fight it or whatnot. And then that's when he ultimately makes that choice. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace the Jedi way. It's like, thanks, Luke, you brought out the true me. So I like what you said. It's like, you see the changes with Vader. Like, first Vader wants to destroy the rebels. He even tortures his daughter and he doesn't even realize it. Second movie, you know what, Luke, you're here, let's rule the galaxy as father of the son. And the third movie, he's like, no, that's not. He's kind of like Bears, like, no, that's not who I am.
Yeah, but even then, with Empire, when you've got rule the galaxy as father and son, obviously that still involves overthrowing the Emperor.
True.
But because that never happened, we don't know in what way really Luke, Anakin, or Vader meant. It could be then to start bringing reform back to the Empire, and having the different sort of councils, with the Jedi, because I think even then Luke was influencing Anakin to come back, because Vader could have killed Luke on Cloud City.
Oh yeah, easy.
Away.
I can't wait to get into the movie discussions.
I know.
I keep thinking what to say. I think, again, this does not change my feelings about the movies, characters, anything at all. I love them. But what I realize is, for example, for Darth Vader, I love him as a villain. He is like Anakin Skywalker. Movies 1, 2, hero, 3, anti-hero, 4, 5, 6, villain. That is the arc for me. That is, I mean, he's way too far gone to be redeemed by a simple act of self-sacrifice. Or, I mean, I don't know. When I start weighing the actions, it doesn't, as you say, let's rule the galaxy as father and son. You just want to have the power for yourself, while you also, like, it's what is it called? Having your cake, also eating it?
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
So
mean, with Anakin, he's basically been lied to his entire life. So to get that redemption arc with Luke, that's the one truth now in his life, that he is certain that that's what he wants to fight for. So, because Palpatine lied to him, the Jedi Council lied to him, Palpatine lied to him some more. He said that Padme had died because of his actions, which movies, but seeing Luke was the one turning point in Anakin's life. It gave him that thing to fight for. And again, tying it back into this with Barriss, she had the thing to fight for, that she had forgotten who she really was because she got put into prison. But then it came to the forefront that no, she is still a Jedi. She just got a bit lost on the way because of what the Jedi had done and said.
Not only that, like she's put in prison, and they're telling you, oh, you're a bad person, and you get this Inquisitor coming in. Oh, we're gonna bring you into the Inquisitors because you don't think like the Jedi. You're a bad person, so you might as well just join us.
Yeah.
Okay, I like to retract my statement about Barriss. She's redeemed because that would also mean that I would not believe in the justice system that we have. That's why I would like to retract that statement. I'm still 100% beyond Darth Vader not redeemed.
Oh, Darth Vader wasn't redeemed. Anakin was.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, with Vader, just to try and win this one, because I'm not going to give up. Vader himself in Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series.
We're also not excusing his. Just to be clear, we're not excusing his acts.
No, Sam is.
I don't even think Sam is.
Sam's just fighting to prove a point now that Vader himself said that he had killed Anakin. So all the acts in Order 66 was Vader.
Yeah.
It's the Anakin redemption from that. Because obviously Anakin was still in there when he was fighting Obi-Wan. It was just, he was losing the inner struggle. It's then, so you can kind of say that even Anakin hasn't, forgotten what he's done. It's just, he gets redeemed.
He's ready to move on.
Yeah.
And do better.
Yeah, because of the fact that now there is his family that he thought was dead is still alive. And that's what's giving him the fight to bring Anakin back instead of Vader. So in a way, Vader kills Anakin and Anakin then kills Vader. And that's where the I think redemption might be the wrong word, but for lack of a better word, that's where it comes in.
Because he's not excusing his past, he's just accepting it and realizing he can do better. Doesn't excuse anything he's done.
Yeah.
But he realizes he doesn't have to be that person anymore.
Yeah, it's just this discussion gave me the self-awareness of how much I actually like very black and white characters. And it's just so much easier for me to make my peace with it. And when I think about it, I mean, when I look at the things that I love, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
Voldemort is a very black and white character. He's very evil.
Exactly.
Star Wars characters are a little bit more complex because even with Morgan Elsbeth, you can't help but feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
You can't help who you're born to be.
Yeah.
It's just, just that fact.
No, I still think Morgan could have done good. She just chose to let her past fuel her anger and future. Like, she never let go of it. Whereas, like, you look at Anakin, Kylo Ren, Barriss, even Crosshair, they all had these tragic backstories, all did these terrible things, but then they came to a realization. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't have to be who I am anymore. And they move forward from there. And they get their chance to redefine themselves. I think that might be the better word than redemption. They get to redefine themselves. Rather than be burdened by their past. Because I think when Vader saw Luke and Luke's trying to bring out the good in him, everybody else was looking, no, Vader, he's this, Anakin Skywalker did this. Luke is the one that's not looking at him like that. And that causes Anakin to resurface.
If
that makes sense.
For the people who are listening, Sam and I have been nodding for the past 30 seconds.
Yeah. That whole speech that was just said, we've just been nodding all the way through it. Out of sheer sort of respect and agreement. But then side note on sort of more, because we could talk about this, forever. But
Oh yeah.
so for like cast wise in these episodes, it's good that they've kept the original, like the original cast. So with the Grand Inquisitor, it was Jason Isaacs, not the Grand
so glad
Inquisitor
for him to come back.
It was it was the proper voice for me anyway. I mean, Jason Isaacs, we know from Harry Potter, to have him back in
Malfoy.
Yeah. So to have him doing the same voice, we had Lars Mikkelsen as the voice of Thrawn, who obviously, we know that he played Thrawn in Ahsoka.
Live action.
Yeah. Matthew Wood is the voice of Grievous, coming back and doing that. We had now I always would say Diana, or I don't know if it's Diana or Deanna, but either way, Diana Lee Inosanto. Please don't murder me for terrible pronunciation. As Morgan Elsbeth, so we have proper cast in this, for a short series that each episode's 16 minutes tops. This was like, again, back to great cast. For me, proper cast as well. It's not like a voice actor doing the voice of another character. So
I think that's what threw me out from the Grand Inquisitor and Kenobi.
Yeah, that, and he didn't look right.
No, finally we get him looking the way he should back in Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we know about. I mean, it's difficult. It is difficult to
live action Kenobi was a fan film in my opinion. It's not canon. I'm kidding.
Live action Kenobi. Don't forget, we've had the Grand Inquisitor species in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So
Utapau.
Yeah. So how can it be that we've had it already and then we get worse?
Maybe the prosthetics were lost.
I mean, Disney's got enough money; they can make new prosthetics. Just saying.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch there.
I mean, we see the level of production and quality that they've been putting in, especially like updating animation on Clone Wars, and then looking at Andor, and then how Acolyte looks. They're not short of funding.
Yeah.
No. We three pay more than enough in merch.
Yeah. Sadly.
So there's that, and so like I say, to hear the likes of Jason Isaacs' voice as the Grand Inquisitor again, just that in itself was shivers. Also, I do want to say, sort of backtracking, that Barriss Offee used the same techniques and words that in the final episode of her arc as the Grand Inquisitor did in the first episode when they were training.
Yeah, that is true.
Sorry, I got lost in the. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just went back and sort of remembered that was
one of your notes.
Grand Inquisitor moves in my notes.
I was gonna say, seeing the Grand Inquisitor fight, because I put this down in my notes, because when he was fighting Barriss, she's like, oh, you're not armed. He's like, I don't need to be. And he's sitting there fighting and overpowering her. Made me think of, okay, if Grand Inquisitor can fight like this, it only kind of shows the level of Jedi that Kanan was when he defeated him.
Yeah.
So I just looked at the parallel of the skills. I'm like, okay, he's doing this to a Jedi that's been trained. Kanan kind of forgot the Force for a while and barely used. I don't even think he used his lightsaber, but although he kept it on him, and to see him be able to defeat the Grand Inquisitor after watching him do this to Barriss, I was like, okay, Kanan is actually a lot more skilled than I think we give him credit for.
When I look at my notes again. Also, when I think about it, I mean, I may not like some things about the Barris's character or the arc, but I like that her story actually comes full circle.
Mhm.
And I like seeing the parallels between the 4th episode and the 6th episode. I think that was a very well done storytelling in that sense.
Fear is my ally, not yours. No, fear is your master. One of my favorite lines from I put the two lines together because they were separated throughout that episode, but I put them together because I that's one of my favorite quotes I saw in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, considering
So
I said I hated this, I've actually defended it quite a lot.
Yeah,
I
very
it,
surprising.
it may be just because of the message behind it
Yeah.
and the character
I-
like complexities.
Yeah.
'Cause that's why I like Star Wars. Is characters are so complex. It's not just black and white with these characters. You're not evil just because you're evil. There's reasons for the choices made to those points.
Yeah.
Because you want to hate Vader, you want to hate Kylo Ren, you want to hate Barriss, you want to even hate Count Dooku, you even want to hate Palpatine, and even Darth Maul. You kind of feel sorry for it, especially in Rebels when he's like, "Oh, I was torn from my mom's arms and forced to train as a Sith. I'm gonna stay evil because that's all he knows." Darth Maul would never have a redemption or a redefining moment, even up
And
until his death.
what I love about him.
Yeah,
100% pure evil.
but you can feel sorry for him, and you can kind of like you love to hate these villains.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Or Voldemort, you just hate. Don't love that character.
You know what? I don't hate Voldemort. I pity him, just like Dumbledore tells me to.
I mean, you could even go back into that. Like, he had a very complex childhood, and
Yeah,
he
he was born under the influence of a love potion.
yeah. So, I mean, even he had a very complex background. I'll retract my statement earlier.
No,
That-
don't do it. We can't
Star
get
Wars
rid of
isn't
that
the
guy.
Star Wars isn't the only genre that has complex characters that do heinous acts just because they have mental issues, for the lack of a better word.
I was thinking the exact same thing when Sam was going into the characters' psyches as well. I was like, this is straight up just mental health issues.
All right, guys. So I know we went a little bit longer than we normally do, but I think with Tales of the Empire, it kind of like gives us a different idea of the Empire. Like, we get to see the good side and the bad side, and we see that these villains are not as villainous as we want to see them as. But overall, I really liked both these arcs because we got to see these characters in a different light. And so we'll catch you guys next week. So remember, check in the link in the description below where you can find our social media. You can join our Discord, join a bunch of other cool fans, as well as our Instagram. Also, be sure to check out our merch. We are affiliated with entertainmentearth.com, and we got a bunch of cool Black Series lightsabers, tons of cool stuff. And if you like any t-shirts, we got our Teespring that we've done some designs ourselves. So take a look at that, guys, and we will catch you guys next week. May the Force
Be with you.
Always.